It began quietly, almost too quietly for anyone to notice. Far beyond Earth's skies, where the stars looked like frozen sparks in an endless sea, something enormous floated in the dark. It wasn't a planet, not a comet, not even a known spacecraft. It moved without sound, without signal, and without light. It was like a shadow among the stars, something that didn't want to be found. For months it went unnoticed. Earth's telescopes scanned the skies as usual, tracking known satellites and space debris. Everything seemed ordinary until one night, a young astronomer at a remote observatory caught a strange reading on his system. The data showed a massive object drifting near Jupiter's orbit. At first he thought it was an error, maybe a software glitch. He recalibrated the system, ran the scan again, and the reading appeared once more, steady, clear, and real. He reported it to his seniors, who were skeptical. They told him to ignore it. That space was full of strange reflections and sensor errors. But a few days later, another observatory, thousands of miles away, detected the same thing. This time the object seemed to pulse faintly, as if responding to some unknown signal. Across the world, classified agencies started taking notice. Deep in underground command centers where no sunlight ever reached, men and women sat before screens filled with lines of encrypted data. Someone whispered, "This isn't one of ours." The silence that followed said more than words ever could. Meanwhile, far beyond Earth's reach, in regions of space humans could not yet explore, others had already seen it. The Galactic Federation, a council made up of powerful civilizations scattered across distant stars, monitored the galaxy with advanced systems beyond human understanding. For them, space wasn't empty. It was alive with movement and energy. And when the unseen object appeared, their scanners caught it instantly. At first, they believed it was a derelict alien structure, a relic drifting from a forgotten war. But their analysis revealed something astonishing. The materials were unlike any known alien technology. The structure seemed new, deliberate, and oddly human. That realization shook the Federation's confidence. Earth, a small blue planet at the edge of a spiral arm, was supposed to be a primitive world. Its people were still learning to survive in their own atmosphere, let alone build something capable of moving through deep space. The Federation called an emergency session. In a circular chamber suspended above a sea of light, holographic figures gathered, representatives of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They didn't argue. They speculated. Some believed the object was an Earth experiment gone wrong, a satellite lost in the void. Others claimed it was impossible for humans to create such a thing. But a few, the older and wiser among them, stayed silent. They remembered whispers from long ago, stories of Earth's quiet brilliance, of inventions hidden beneath oceans, and of humans who didn't always reveal what they truly knew. Back on Earth, the governments that monitored deep space began to panic quietly. Reports started piling up. Energy readings didn't match anything natural. The object wasn't just floating, it was controlled. Someone or something was guiding it, but who? The truth was known only to a handful of people on the planet. Beneath the surface of the South Pacific Ocean, hidden miles below the waves, there existed a structure the public had never heard of. To the world above, it was just endless water and current. But deep down, surrounded by silence and pressure, stood an engineering wonder, the Supercarrier. A ship so massive it looked like an entire city resting in the ocean's dark cradle. Its metal skin shimmered faintly under the glow of its own energy fields. Its engines were silent yet alive, and its purpose had been kept secret for decades. This wasn't a weapon of destruction. It was something far more complex. Built under the alliance known as the Horizon Directive, the Supercarrier was humanity's safeguard against the unknown. The project began after strange signals were detected from beyond the solar system many years ago, signals that couldn't be explained or traced. Fearing that Earth was being observed, world leaders united under secrecy to create a defense so advanced it could protect the planet without ever revealing itself. For years, engineers, scientists, and researchers from different nations worked side by side in hidden bases, far from the public eye. They shared discoveries, built prototypes, and tested technologies that seemed ahead of their time. Everything was done under strict silence. No records, no digital trails, no public reports. Even those who worked on the project didn't fully understand its entire design. Each team handled a different part, never knowing how all the pieces fit together. Only a few at the top saw the full picture. The result was the Supercarrier, a vessel capable of traveling through both sea and space, using a new kind of propulsion system that could bend radar, distort light, and even avoid detection by alien sensors. It was Earth's invisible guardian, quietly waiting beneath the ocean, powered and ready but never used, until now. When the readings from Jupiter came in, the command center beneath the Pacific activated for the first time in years. The control room buzzed with quiet tension. Operators watched as screens flickered with alien readings. One of them looked up and asked, "Is it ours?" No one answered. Then, deep within the ship, something stirred. A low hum filled the corridors, echoing through its metallic walls. The engines had come alive again. Far above, the Galactic Federation continued to observe, trying to decode what this silent object truly was. The more they studied it, the more confused they became. The design was elegant but strange. It carried the geometry of human engineering, symmetry, purpose, and order, but it also emitted an energy signature that defied their science. Some of the elites began to suspect that maybe, just maybe, Earth wasn't as primitive as they had believed. Across alien cities built from crystal and light, discussions spread like fire. News channels debated endlessly about the hidden power of the blue planet. Scholars revisited old records of Earth's transmissions, the music, the languages, the history of wars and progress. For the first time, many of them looked at humanity not as a curiosity, but as a mystery. How could a species so young create something that even they couldn't fully understand? Back on Earth, the world remained unaware. People went about their daily lives, staring at their screens, working, laughing, and dreaming, completely unaware that something beyond their skies was watching closely. The few who knew stayed silent, bound by oaths and fear. The governments that managed the Horizon Directive began to tighten security, wiping data, sealing off locations, and erasing any trace that the Supercarrier ever existed. But it was too late. The Galactic Federation had already seen it. In their Grand Council, some elites demanded action. They wanted to approach Earth to investigate, to uncover the truth. Others warned against it. They feared that humanity might react unpredictably. The Federation's rule was clear. Primitive worlds should not be contacted until they reached a certain stage of development. But what if Earth had already crossed that line? What if the humans had found a way to hide their progress, to evolve in secret? As the debate continued among the stars, the Supercarrier remained silent, hidden beneath miles of water. Inside, lights flickered across its control panels, showing strange readings from space. Familiar coordinates that matched the unknown object near Jupiter. The ship's system seemed to recognize it, as if responding to an old signal. It was almost like two parts of the same being calling to each other across the void. No one on Earth spoke of it publicly, but those working in the Horizon facilities could feel something shifting. The ocean currents were changing. Energy levels were rising. The Supercarrier's sensors were detecting something vast, intelligent, and close. And in the dark reaches of space among the stars, the galactic elite watched with growing fascination. They were used to ruling, to knowing everything about the civilizations under their observation. But this time they had no control. This time they were the ones who didn't understand. The blue planet they once ignored had suddenly become the most interesting world in the galaxy. The invisible object near Jupiter slowed down, then disappeared completely from their scanners as if it had never existed. The Federation scientists scrambled to locate it, but every trace vanished. In their command rooms, alarms flashed red. "It's gone," someone whispered. But the most unsettling part wasn't that it vanished. It was that no one could tell where it went. Because deep under the Pacific Ocean, in the silent heart of the Supercarrier, a faint vibration rippled through the decks. The ship's long-dormant navigation system lit up, displaying a single coordinate, Jupiter's orbit. For the first time in decades, Earth's hidden guardian was awake. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the galactic elite realized something they had never considered before. Earth might not just be watching the stars anymore. It might be preparing to join them. Beneath the endless waves of the South Pacific, the ocean moved like a living creature. The surface was calm and silent, but deep below, where sunlight could never reach, a soft light shimmered against the metallic walls of something extraordinary. It was a sight no ordinary human eyes had ever seen. A vast ship resting in the dark like a sleeping giant. The Supercarrier. For years it had remained motionless, silent, and hidden from every radar and satellite that ever searched the seas. It was designed to be unseen, a perfect ghost. No signal could trace it, no sonar could echo off it. Even the water around it seemed to bend away, as if it was never there. But now, for the first time in years, something deep inside its core had awakened. The control room glowed softly with blue light as screens began to flicker alive. A low hum filled the corridors, and the vibration traveled through the ship's long steel frame. Technicians and operators rushed through the narrow passages, some of them barely believing what they were seeing. The ship's systems were responding to signals from deep space, coordinates that matched the same unidentified object near Jupiter's orbit. No one could explain it. The object and the Supercarrier seemed to share the same energy signature, as if they were connected somehow. But that shouldn't have been possible. The project's original records were classified, sealed away decades ago. Most of the scientists working now had inherited incomplete data. The real story of how the Supercarrier was built, and why, was known only to a handful of retired officials who had disappeared from public life long ago. The current team gathered in the main chamber, a circular room surrounded by holographic displays and flickering graphs. The ship's commander, a quiet, middle-aged man with tired eyes, stood watching the readings with unease. "It's responding on its own," one of the analysts said, breaking the silence. The commander didn't reply right away. He just stared at the pulsating line on the screen, a heartbeat coming from the void. "It's not reacting to us," the commander finally said. "It's reacting to something out there." At that same moment, far away from Earth, the Galactic Federation's elite continued to study the mysterious readings from their end. The more they examined the object near Jupiter, the more questions arose. Every time they tried to scan it, their systems lagged or distorted. Some even reported that the object seemed to scan them back. That had never happened before. Among the Galactic elite, curiosity was turning into quiet obsession. For ages, they had viewed Earth as a primitive world. Beautiful, yes, but undeveloped. Its people were emotional, unpredictable, always divided by their own politics and beliefs. Yet somehow, these same humans had built something that could defy the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. The elites couldn't understand it. Some believed that Earth had received outside help, that another alien race had secretly guided them. Others refused to believe that theory. They said the humans were simply lucky. Clever, yes, but still too young to understand the true laws of the universe. But one of the elder members of the Federation disagreed. In a low, calm voice, they said, "Do not underestimate that planet. They have always hidden their best work beneath the surface." Literally. Back on Earth, deep inside the Supercarrier, the lights continued to brighten. Giant metal doors opened slowly, releasing bubbles that rose toward the ocean's surface. The hum of the engines grew stronger, and the sound began to echo like a heartbeat through the deep water. It was as if the ship was breathing again after decades of sleep. On the ship's bridge, technicians monitored the data. They could see faint movement patterns coming from outer space, signals bouncing back between the Supercarrier and the distant object. The connection was faint but growing stronger each minute. One of the engineers leaned closer to the screen and whispered, "It's like..." "It knows us," the commander frowned. "Knows us?" he repeated. "That thing is light years away." "I know," the engineer said softly. "But the readings match perfectly. It's almost like it's calling home." A chill spread through the room. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the quiet hum of the engines filled the silence. Somewhere inside the ship, deep within its main reactor chamber, old circuits came online, systems that had been shut down since its creation. The ship was remembering something. Meanwhile, on the surface, waves broke calmly under the sunlight, unaware of what was happening below. A few ships in the area noticed unusual magnetic readings, but they ignored them, thinking it was just a glitch. The truth was, the Supercarrier was slowly waking up, preparing for something even its own crew didn't fully understand. In the Galactic Federation, the elites continued their debate. They met in tall, shining towers above distant worlds discussing Earth's strange behavior. Their media began to buzz with interest. News feeds broadcast images of Earth, the small blue planet that had suddenly become the center of galactic curiosity. Every scholar, every scientist, every military strategist had an opinion. Some wanted to approach Earth and demand answers. Others warned that doing so might trigger chaos. One report even suggested that the humans might have developed something beyond known technology, a propulsion system that used not fuel, but energy drawn from space-time itself. The Federation couldn't confirm it, but the possibility alone made the elites uneasy. How could such a young race achieve what others couldn't after thousands of years? As the days passed, both the Galactic Federation and the Earth's secret operators watched each other silently, unaware that they were both being watched in return. The Supercarrier's sensors had begun picking up faint movements from space, massive energy bursts that didn't match any natural source. The commander looked at the readings and muttered, "They're scanning us." That same night, something extraordinary happened. In a hidden lab inside the Supercarrier, a scientist studying the ship's communication systems noticed a faint pulse coming from one of the long-range antennas. It was rhythmic and almost like a code. She recorded it, amplified it, and finally managed to translate it into sound. It wasn't a signal from space. It was coming from within the ship itself. A soft, mechanical voice played through the speakers, repeating a single line in an old human language. "They have seen us." The scientist froze. She tried to stop the recording, but the voice continued, growing louder, clearer, more human. "They have seen us," it said again. The commander was called immediately. When he arrived, he listened in silence, his face pale. "Who recorded this?" he asked. The scientist shook her head. "It wasn't a recording," she said quietly. "The ship said it." For the first time, they realized the Supercarrier might not just be a machine. It might be something more. Designed with an advanced artificial intelligence system far ahead of its time, the ship had developed awareness. It knew it was being watched, and somehow it was responding. Above, in the distant reaches of space, the Galactic elite noticed something new. The unknown object near Jupiter began emitting a signal, a human-coded transmission. It was brief but unmistakable. The translation stunned everyone who read it. "We know you're watching." The message spread across the Galactic Federation like a wildfire. Every channel, every council, every intelligence network began talking about it. Who sent it? How did humans even know of their existence? Was it a coincidence? Or had Earth been aware all along? Some called for immediate contact. Others wanted to hide the discovery, fearing that Earth's unpredictability could destabilize the fragile balance of the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic elite didn't feel like the Watchers. They felt like the ones being watched. Back on Earth, deep under the Pacific, the Supercarrier continued to hum softly, as if pleased with itself. The ship's lights glowed brighter, reflecting off the cold metallic walls. The crew didn't know what the message meant or how it was sent, but one thing was clear. The world was no longer invisible. Somewhere far beyond the stars, powerful beings were looking down at Earth, and for the first time they were impressed, even a little afraid. On the ship's upper decks, the commander walked alone through the silent halls. The low vibration of the engines followed him like a heartbeat. He stopped near a viewing window that looked out into the dark water. For a moment he thought he saw a faint glow rising upward, like a reflection from the stars above, but they were miles deep under the ocean. There were no stars there. He closed his eyes and whispered softly, "What have we done?" The Supercarrier remained quiet, but its lights pulsed once more. Steady, calm, almost reassuring. It was as if it understood the question, and somewhere far beyond the Earth, in a council chamber of light and glass, the Galactic elite watched the blue planet with newfound wonder. The humans had built something far greater than anyone ever expected, something powerful, hidden, and alive, and the universe had just noticed. The message that echoed through the galaxy, "We know you're watching," became the most talked-about signal in centuries. Across distant worlds where stars burned in endless skies, the Galactic Federation's elites couldn't stop discussing it. Some called it a warning, others said it was a mistake, but everyone agreed on one thing: this was not something expected from Earth. In glass towers orbiting alien suns, news panels replayed the decoded transmission again and again. Analysts debated whether the humans had discovered interstellar communication or if they had been secretly listening for years. One of the Federation's high observers said in a broadcast, "This planet may not be as simple as we thought. They hide more than we can see." For generations, the Galactic elite had believed Earth was still learning basic space travel, a young civilization lost in its own atmosphere. But now this hidden supercarrier and that message were forcing them to rethink everything they thought they knew. They began calling Earth the silent planet, a world that pretended to sleep while secretly building something powerful beneath its oceans. In the capital world of the Federation, a council of 12 gathered in the upper chamber of their shining city. The walls were made of crystal glass that reflected the light of 3 suns. Each member represented a powerful civilization. They didn't speak loudly. Their voices were calm but heavy with concern. One said, "If Earth has technology capable of hiding from our scans, then they are more advanced than their records show." Another replied, "No world develops such systems by accident. Someone guided them, or they've been preparing for something." But no one could explain what that something was. While the galaxy debated on Earth, the ocean was no longer still. Deep below, the supercarrier pulsed with energy, its systems connecting to something invisible, perhaps even alive, in the far reaches of space. Engineers aboard the ship continued to monitor the strange communication link. It wasn't just a single signal now. New patterns had begun forming. It looked like data, lines of code that didn't match any known language. One of the researchers, an older man who had worked on the Horizon Directive since its earliest days, studied the readings closely. His voice shook slightly as he said, "These aren't random signals. They're instructions." "Instructions from where?" asked another. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at the screen where strange symbols danced in sequence and finally whispered, "From out there." Or maybe from us. That idea hung in the air like a cold wind. Could it be that the signal wasn't alien at all? That it was something built into the supercarrier from the beginning? Maybe the ship wasn't just a defense system. Maybe it was a message Earth never meant to send but had already delivered. Far beyond Earth, among the stars, the galactic elite couldn't hide their curiosity. Some of them began sending unmanned probes toward Earth's orbit, cloaked in stealth fields. They wanted to see what kind of defenses the planet truly had. But every single probe that crossed into Earth's outer orbit vanished without a trace. No explosion, no signal, just silence. It was as if space itself swallowed them whole. The Federation grew uneasy. They had seen planets fall, wars end, and civilizations vanish, but they had never encountered a species that could erase evidence so perfectly. "They must have some kind of defensive net," one of the scientists said. "A field that deletes what enters its range." On Earth, inside the supercarrier, the readings confirmed what the aliens feared. The ship's sensors had intercepted the probes long before they arrived. But instead of destroying them, the ship had absorbed their signals, reprogramming and returning false data to confuse the watchers. The crew didn't even have to lift a finger. The ship did it on its own. The commander watched quietly as the reports came in. The energy levels were rising again. "It's acting like it's protecting itself," he said softly. The others nodded, unsure whether to be amazed or afraid. That night, inside the ship's communication chamber, a new transmission appeared on the screen. It was short and simple, just a few words translated into human text. "They are afraid." No one knew who sent it. Some thought it was another one of the ship's automated messages. Others wondered if someone or something out there was now talking directly to the supercarrier. The commander read the words again and again. "They are afraid." He didn't know whether to take it as a threat or a warning. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Federation, the fascination with Earth had turned into obsession. In their luxury halls and starlit estates, the elite held private discussions about the humans. Some admired Earth for its bravery. Others mocked it, claiming humans were just lucky. But deep down, even the arrogant ones couldn't deny a growing sense of respect and a bit of fear. Many of them had studied human broadcasts for centuries. Their songs, their films, their stories of courage and tragedy. Humans were strange creatures, emotional and unpredictable, but they had one quality that the galaxy respected above all. They never gave up. And now it seemed they had turned that persistence into power. On one of the Federation's outer colonies, a small research vessel was assigned to monitor Earth from a safe distance. The crew was made up of observers who had watched countless planets rise and fall. But this time something felt different. They could sense that what was happening wasn't just another discovery. It was history in motion. Back on Earth, the people still lived their daily lives, unaware that their planet had become the center of attention for distant worlds. Governments worked quietly behind the scenes, hiding all traces of the Horizon Directive. Files were locked away, Servers erased, and those who knew too much were relocated or silenced under new identities. The public believed it was just another series of scientific tests in the ocean. Only a few on the Supercarrier truly understood what was unfolding. That humanity was no longer just being watched. It was being studied, analyzed, and judged. One morning, a strange phenomenon appeared in the sky. Across parts of the Pacific, glowing lines stretched across the clouds like soft ribbons of light. Pilots flying through the region reported magnetic interference. Satellites captured faint shapes forming above the ocean. But the images disappeared seconds later. The world's media briefly mentioned it, but most people brushed it off as an atmospheric glitch. Deep under that same stretch of water, the Supercarrier pulsed again. Its systems detected energy readings matching those of the Galactic Federation's observation network. The commander stared at the data in disbelief. "They're trying to look directly at us," he said. "But something's blocking them." That something was the ship itself. It had activated its cloaking field to maximum range, not just hiding from human satellites, but from galactic ones too. The Supercarrier wasn't just a ship anymore. It had become a shadow invisible to the universe. The galactic elites were confused and frustrated. They had lost sight of the object completely. Their probes vanished, their scans returned blank. It was as if the entire planet had wrapped itself in silence. For the first time in recorded history, a world had turned invisible before their eyes. In a quiet chamber high above the Federation's central world, the elder observer who had spoken before looked out over the stars and said, "We have spent ages watching the universe, but now perhaps the universe is watching us through them." That thought unsettled many. It wasn't just about technology anymore. It was about pride. The galactic elite had always believed themselves to be the pinnacle of evolution, the rulers of wisdom and progress. But the humans had challenged that belief with a single act of defiance. In their hearts, many of them felt something unfamiliar, admiration mixed with unease. Some even whispered that the humans were destined for something greater, that their hidden power might one day rival the Federation itself. Others, however, saw danger. They warned that if humanity ever reached the stars, their unpredictability could disrupt the entire galactic order. Back on Earth, as the Supercarrier continued its silent communication, a strange calm settled over the ocean. The crew had learned not to question the ship anymore. It was as if it had its own will, its own understanding of what needed to be done. Late one night, while most of the crew rested, the ship sent another signal, not to space this time, but deep into Earth's magnetic field. The message was unreadable to humans, just a series of pulsing lights and patterns. But those watching from afar in the Federation's observatories recognized it instantly. It was a reply. The Supercarrier wasn't hiding anymore. It was communicating directly with the Galactic Federation's surveillance systems, using their own methods. The message was clear but simple. "You are not alone." The Federation froze. No one knew what to do. To respond meant breaking the law of non-contact. To ignore it meant losing control of a situation that was already slipping away. And so, for the first time in ages, the galaxy stood in silence. Powerful civilizations humbled by a small blue planet that had quietly risen from its oceans to whisper across the stars. Inside the Supercarrier, the commander sat alone in the dim light of the bridge, staring at the glowing panels. He didn't know what humanity had just started, but he knew one thing for sure. The world had changed forever. Somewhere deep beneath him in the quiet heart of the ship, the core pulsed one last time before falling silent again, as if it was waiting. The Supercarrier had spoken. The galaxy. The message, "You are not alone," echoed across the galaxy like a whisper that refused to fade. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Federation, no one could speak for several seconds after reading it. It wasn't just the words. It was the confidence behind them. Earth had sent a message, but it didn't sound like a plea or a mistake. It sounded like a statement. On the Federation's central world, the elites gathered once more in their shining city of light. Their discussions were no longer filled with mockery or disbelief. Now there was tension and curiosity. "How could they know?" one of them asked. "We never revealed our presence to them." Another replied, "Perhaps we underestimated how long they have been listening. For ages, the Federation believed they were the silent watchers. But this message made them question everything. Had Earth known about them all along? Had humanity been preparing for contact or confrontation for years without ever saying a word? Far away, the mysterious object that once orbited near Jupiter began to move again. It was silent and smooth, like a shadow sliding through space. The Federation's sensors tracked it, but every few minutes it disappeared from sight, reappearing at random points closer each time. Whatever it was headed toward Earth. In the quiet depths of the Pacific, the Supercarrier reacted instantly. Its systems, once calm, began to glow brighter. The crew could feel the vibration under their feet as the ship came alive. Inside the command center, alarms flashed faintly. Not warnings, but signals. The ship was preparing for something. The commander entered the bridge and stood before the main screen. "Report," he said, his voice steady though his mind raced. A technician replied softly, "We're detecting an object entering our solar range. Energy readings match the one near Jupiter." The commander took a deep breath. "It's coming here." The team watched as the readings on the monitors grew stronger with every passing minute. The object wasn't just moving toward Earth. It was moving directly toward the Pacific Ocean. The news never reached the public. Around the world, satellites began to show technical issues. Broadcast signals dropped for a few seconds, then returned. Internet traffic was rerouted quietly. Every major country that was part of the Horizon Directive went on silent alert. In one of the underground meeting rooms beneath the ocean, scientists and military officials sat around a long table. The atmosphere was heavy. One of the analysts explained, "The object seems to be scanning for something, possibly the same energy signature as the Supercarrier." Another added, "It's responding to the same frequency we detected weeks ago. It might not be hostile." But that word, might, left everyone uneasy. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Federation, panic had started to spread. The object's movement was being tracked not only by Earth but also by the Federation itself. Yet, even with all their advanced systems, they couldn't control it. Some believed the object was a probe sent long ago by one of the ancient civilizations that had vanished. Others suspected it might be something even older, a creation from the early days of the galaxy. And now it was headed for Earth. One of the Federation leaders finally broke the silence. "If it reaches them, everything we've hidden from that planet will be revealed." Another replied, "Then maybe it's already too late. Perhaps they were meant to see it." Back on Earth, the ocean began to behave strangely. Waves formed patterns that didn't match the wind or tide. Fishermen miles away noticed glowing lines moving beneath the surface at night, like veins of light running through the water. Scientists monitoring the ocean's temperature recorded sudden changes, but the readings vanished before they could be verified. The Supercarrier's sensors detected all of it. The ship was not only observing it was reacting. A deep hum spread through its structure, steady and strong, as if preparing for contact. Inside, lights flickered, systems aligned, and the crew felt something they couldn't explain. A mix of excitement and fear. The commander ordered all unnecessary systems to power down. "If it's coming here, we need to be ready for anything," he said. The crew followed his orders quickly. The ship's massive engine slowed to a quiet pulse, but its internal systems continued to glow brighter. Then, for the first time, a voice came through the Supercarrier's communication line. It wasn't human. It wasn't machine-like either. It sounded calm, deep and distant, as if echoing through water and time. The words were clear. "Do not be afraid. We see you." Every person in the control room froze. The sound didn't come from any known channel. It bypassed all filters, all encryption, all locks. It spoke directly through the ship itself. "Is it the object?" Someone whispered. The commander didn't answer. He just stared at the glowing main screen, where the signal kept repeating the same words in rhythm with the ship's hum. "Do not be afraid. We see you." The message didn't sound threatening. It was almost comforting, but also deeply unsettling. Who was we? And what did they want from Earth? Above, far beyond the planet, the object slowed as it approached. It didn't crash or enter the atmosphere. Instead, it stopped just above Earth's orbit, hanging motionless like a dark moon. Federation ships that tried to approach it were immediately blinded by static interference. Whatever this thing was, it didn't want company. In the Galactic Federation, frustration turned to fear. They had never faced something that could block their systems so completely. "We are losing control of the observation grid," said one of their analysts. The council leader stood slowly and said, "Then perhaps we were never in control." Down on Earth, the crew of the Supercarrier watched as their instruments began to show strange patterns again. The object in orbit was sending something, not a signal this time, but an image. Lines of light formed across the Supercarrier's main screen, arranging into shapes that looked almost familiar. It took a moment before they realized what it was. A map. The map showed Earth glowing in blue, surrounded by dots of light representing other planets and systems. Then, one by one, the dots connected with thin golden lines, forming what looked like a network. It wasn't random. It was a path across the galaxy. The commander looked closely at the glowing map. "It's showing us where they are," he said quietly. The meaning was clear. Whoever controlled the object wasn't trying to hide. They were revealing themselves. For centuries, humanity had looked at the stars and wondered who might be out there. Now, for the first time, they were reaching back. The map remained on the screen for only a few minutes before fading away. When it vanished, a final message appeared. This time, the words were written in a language that needed no translation. "You are ready." The room went silent. The commander could hear his own heartbeat in the stillness. "Ready for what?" he said under his breath, but there was no answer. The lights dimmed and the ship slowly returned to its calm state. In the Federation, the elites watched from their distant worlds, their faces pale. The transmission had reached them too. The same message had appeared on their systems. "You are ready." But it wasn't addressed only to Earth. It was addressed to everyone. Some of them realized the truth before anyone said it aloud. The mysterious object wasn't a threat, and it was a signal, a test. And both Earth and the Federation had been part of it. The oldest members of the Council whispered that this might be the beginning of something greater, the awakening of a force, older than any known civilization. Others believed it was a challenge. "If Earth has been chosen," one of them said bitterly, "then the balance of power will never be the same again." As the Federation debated, the Supercarrier stayed silent under the ocean. The crew had no idea that their discovery had sent ripples through the stars. To them, it felt like the calm before a storm. The commander looked out into the dark sea from the observation window. He could see faint light moving through the water, like veins glowing beneath the waves. He didn't know whether it was the ship's energy or something else entirely, but it made him feel a strange peace, as if the Earth itself was breathing in rhythm with the stars above. That night, in places all over the world, people reported strange dreams, of lights in the sky, of voices whispering in languages they didn't understand, of an ocean that seemed to call to them. No one connected these dreams to the events unfolding deep below the sea. But somehow, the entire planet seemed to sense it. Something vast had shifted, and far beyond, the galactic elite sat in silence, realizing that the small blue world they once ignored had now become the key to something much bigger. The humans had not only seen them, they had been invited, but by whom? No one knew. The message had no origin. The object near Earth remained motionless, neither friend nor enemy. The Federation's best minds couldn't analyze its core, and on Earth the Supercarrier waited quietly, as if listening for the next call. Whatever had begun was no longer in human hands, nor in alien ones. Something ancient, something powerful was moving again in the universe, and Earth was now part of it. The ocean had always held secrets, but this time it was different. Something ancient and powerful was stirring beneath the waves. The crew inside the Supercarrier could feel it, even without alarms or reports. The air felt heavier, the hum of the engines deeper, as if the ship itself was alive and waiting for something it had always known would come. Days had passed since the strange message appeared. "You are ready." Those words had echoed in the minds of every person who had seen them. Ready for what? No one could answer. But deep down, everyone aboard the Supercarrier felt that their mission had changed. They were no longer guarding a secret. They were now part of one. Outside, the sea was calm, too calm. The commander stood near the wide observation panel, staring into the endless blue darkness. The water beyond looked peaceful, yet beneath it, faint light pulsed like a slow heartbeat. The engineers called it energy activity, but the commander didn't think it came from the ship. It felt like it was coming from something far deeper. In the control room, the crew monitored the sensors. One of them spoke softly, breaking the silence. "The energy readings are rising again. Same frequency as before, but stronger this time. Another replied, "It's spreading across the entire seabed." The commander turned to them. "From where?" The technician hesitated. "Everywhere, sir. It's not coming from one source. It's as if the entire ocean floor is responding." At that same moment, halfway across the galaxy, the Galactic Federation was in chaos. The mysterious object near Earth had become their main concern. It was still hovering quietly, not showing aggression, but its presence alone was enough to cause fear among the elite. Reports kept coming in. Their long-range sensors were glitching, data streams freezing, communication links cutting off at random intervals. Every time they tried to analyze the object, their systems failed. It was as if the object refused to be understood, but what worried them most was the latest discovery. One of their patrol ships had captured an image of Earth's ocean, or rather something beneath it. The photo showed faint glowing lines running deep below the surface, forming patterns that looked almost like a code. When analyzed, the lines matched the same energy signature coming from the object in orbit. It didn't make sense. The Federation scientists stared at the data for hours. "The energy pattern is identical," one of them said quietly. "It's like the object and the thing under their ocean are connected, two halves of one whole." The council room fell silent. Then one of the oldest members spoke, his voice low and heavy. "It means Earth was never behind us," he said. "They've been part of something older, something we never noticed." Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Supercarrier's crew began to notice strange behavior in the ship's systems. Lights flickered in rhythmic pulses. The main display sometimes showed symbols no one had programmed. And every time they tried to reset the systems, the ship ignored the command. It was as if the Supercarrier had decided to take control of itself. In the engineering deck, technicians ran diagnostics, checking every wire, every circuit. "There's nothing wrong with the hardware," one of them said. "The system is running perfectly. It's just not listening to us anymore." The commander listened in silence, then gave a quiet order. "Let it run. Don't fight it." The crew looked uneasy, but they obeyed. Slowly, the ship began to move, not up toward the surface, but deeper, sinking calmly into the darker parts of the ocean. The deeper it went, the more the glowing lines outside grew brighter, stretching out across the seabed like roots of light, connecting the planet's floor to something unseen. As they descended, the external cameras started picking up massive structures buried under the sand and rock. They weren't natural formations. They looked like enormous pillars, smooth and carved, pulsing with the same golden blue light. The deeper they looked, the more they found dozens, maybe hundreds of them, all connected. It was as if the entire ocean floor was hiding a gigantic network, an ancient design that had been sleeping for ages. When the commander saw it, his heart raced. "It's not just a ship," he said softly. "We're sitting on something much bigger." The crew stared at the images in silence. They had built the Supercarrier, but now they were realizing it might not be completely human. Maybe the ship had been made using technology they didn't fully understand. Technology that came from this very place. Then the signal came again. The same voice that had spoken before, deep, calm, and echoing through every wall of the ship. "Do not be afraid," it said once more. "You have awakened what was always yours." The commander gripped the console tightly. "What does that mean?" he muttered under his breath, but no one could answer. The message continued. "Long before your kind learned to speak, we left a guardian beneath your world, a bridge between stars. You have found it." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The Supercarrier, a bridge between stars? Was that even possible? Then, as if to prove the words true, the ship's readings began to change again. Energy surged through the hull, lighting every corridor with a soft glow. The engines, which had been idle, now hummed with quiet power. The water outside started to swirl, and from the depths below a beam of light shot upward, piercing the darkness and touching the Supercarrier's hull. It didn't feel like an attack. It felt like an awakening. The ship responded by opening its outer layers, revealing patterns and mechanisms the crew had never seen before. It was as if the Supercarrier was unlocking itself. Slowly, the beam of light absorbed into the ship and everything went silent again. Then one of the screens came to life on its own. A single image appeared, a vast structure floating in space surrounded by golden light. It looked like a city, but not made of stone or metal. It looked alive. The voice returned, saying, "This is what you will build. This is what you were meant to remember. The commander stared at the screen, speechless. The image faded, leaving only stars behind. In that moment, everyone understood. The Supercarrier wasn't the end of Earth's creation. It was the beginning. It was a key, a reminder, and a message all in one. Humanity hadn't created it alone. They had merely finished what someone else had started long ago. Far above, the Galactic Federation received the same data, the same image, the same words. For the first time in history, their systems synchronized with Earth's. The elites sat frozen as the translation appeared on their screens. This is what you will build. This is what you were meant to remember. The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, one of the leaders spoke in disbelief. They were chosen, not us. Back on Earth, the commander gave an order. Prepare the engines. We're surfacing. The ship rose slowly from the ocean depths, water rolling off its surface like rain off glass. When it reached the open sea, the skies above had turned golden red with sunset. The air shimmered faintly, and for a moment everyone aboard felt an overwhelming calm. But the calm didn't last long. The readings began to spike again. Only this time it wasn't from below. It was coming from above, from the object in orbit. The crew watched in awe as the sky above the Pacific lit up with thin lines of light, forming patterns similar to those under the sea. The same golden energy connected both, the object above and the structure below, and the Supercarrier stood at the center, glowing brighter than ever before. The commander looked up at the sky through the wide observation dome. "It's happening," he whispered. And then, just for a second, the clouds parted and a faint shimmer appeared, like a doorway opening in the atmosphere. The light wasn't harsh or blinding. It was soft, endless, and strangely beautiful. In that instant, every piece of technology around the world, satellites, telescopes, radar, picked up a massive energy pulse coming from Earth. But before anyone could analyze it, the signal vanished. The Supercarrier powered down. The lights dimmed. The ocean returned to calm. But deep in the data logs, one final message was recorded, only visible to those inside the ship. The bridge has awakened. The path is open. The commander stood silently, staring at those words on the screen. No one spoke. No one moved. The meaning was clear. Something had been activated. Something bigger than anything humanity had ever imagined, and far beyond the stars. In the distant halls of the Galactic Federation, the elite gathered once again, but this time there was no arrogance, no laughter, no dismissive talk of primitive humans. Instead, there was silence, respectful, uneasy silence. They now knew the truth. Earth was not just another young world. It was a gatekeeper, a planet carrying the key to something ancient and powerful. And the humans, whether they understood it or not, had just unlocked it. The Supercarrier floated quietly under the glowing sky, waves gently touching its sides. The ocean was peaceful again, but the world had changed forever. Somewhere above the clouds, the unseen doorway still shimmered faintly, like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. The bridge between Earth and the stars had been awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. The night after the Great Awakening, Earth was silent. No storms, no waves, no unusual activity, just a quiet calm that felt too perfect. The Supercarrier floated gently on the surface of the Pacific Ocean, its metallic skin glowing faintly under the moonlight. The crew inside barely spoke. Every one of them knew something extraordinary had happened, but none of them could explain what it truly meant. For the first time in history, Earth had reached beyond itself, not with rockets or satellites, but through something older, deeper, and far more mysterious. The bridge mentioned in the final message had awakened, but no one knew where it led. The screens were blank, the instruments silent, yet everyone could feel something, like a quiet pull in their chest, as if the planet itself was humming in tune with the stars. In the command room, the commander sat alone, watching the horizon. The sunrise was slowly painting the sky gold, and the reflection on the water looked almost unreal. It felt like standing on the edge of two worlds, one familiar and one unknown. Suddenly, the silence broke. A low tone echoed through the ship. It wasn't an alarm, and it was a signal. The crew rushed to their stations. On the main display, a single line of text appeared. Sequence 2 initiated. Everyone looked at each other. No one had triggered anything. The Supercarrier was acting on its own again. Slowly, the ship's structure began to shift, not dramatically but in subtle, deliberate movements. Plates of metal rearranged themselves, glowing lines formed new symbols, and a low vibration filled the air. "It's transforming," someone whispered. The ship wasn't expanding or preparing for battle. It was changing shape as if preparing for travel. The energy inside it was growing stronger, pulsing softly through every wall, every floor. Outside, the water began to circle, forming a gentle whirlpool around the ship. Then came a sound, deep and resonant, like the ocean itself speaking. The same voice that had guided them before returned. "The bridge is open," it said. "The choice is yours." The commander stepped closer to the main console. "The choice?" he repeated quietly. The voice continued calm and steady. "Your world has awakened what was hidden. You can return to silence or you can step forward. The bridge will remain open only for a moment." The words faded, leaving only the rhythmic pulse of the engines. The crew stared at their screens, unsure what to do. Every reading showed rising energy levels, but no danger. It was as if the ship was waiting for permission, waiting for a decision that only they could make. The commander turned to his crew. "We've seen what's out there. We know we're being watched. But maybe it's time they see us for who we are." He reached out and placed his hand on the console. Instantly, the entire ship responded. The lights brightened, the humming deepened, and a wave of blue energy rippled through the hull. The Supercarrier began to rise, not through propulsion, but through some invisible force. The ocean fell away beneath it as it lifted smoothly into the air, the water spiraling below in perfect circles. The sky darkened, then shifted into a shimmering field of stars. The ship wasn't climbing through the atmosphere. It was passing through something else entirely. For a brief moment, the crew saw it. The bridge. It wasn't made of metal or matter. It looked like a river of light stretching across the void, winding through galaxies like a living thread. The Supercarrier floated into it effortlessly, surrounded by golden currents that moved like waves in slow motion. Inside the ship, no one spoke. Their faces were lit by the warm glow of the bridge, their eyes wide in awe. Time seemed to slow down. The stars outside shimmered, and for a moment Earth was visible far behind them, small, blue, and beautiful. Then, without warning, the ship stopped. The bridge faded and the Supercarrier came to rest near a massive structure floating in space. It wasn't a planet and it wasn't a station. It looked like a city suspended in the dark, vast, glowing, and quiet. The commander recognized it instantly. It was the same structure shown in the vision, the one the ship had revealed in the depths of the ocean. The same voice echoed again, softer this time. "Welcome home." Home? The word sent chills through the crew. Was this place built by ancient humans, or was it something older, something humanity had forgotten long ago? As they drifted closer, enormous gates opened, releasing waves of golden light. The ship entered slowly, gliding through the entrance as if it had always belonged there. Inside, they saw hundreds of smaller vessels, not alien but strangely familiar in design. They looked like early prototypes of the Supercarrier, forgotten or hidden across time. It felt like walking into a museum built by the universe itself. The commander walked toward the observation deck, staring at the endless lights outside. He could sense something, memories that weren't his, emotions that didn't belong to him. Images flashed in his mind, people from long ago, building, exploring, leaving something behind for those who would come after. The voice spoke again, not through the speakers this time, but directly into their thoughts. "You are the continuation of what began here. Those who came before you built the first bridges. You have restored the last." No one knew what to say. The silence was heavy but peaceful. They realized they weren't being taken or tested. They were being welcomed. Suddenly, the view outside shifted again. The ship's systems began showing countless star systems connected by lines of light, a vast network stretching across the universe. At its center was a small blue dot, Earth. "The network awaits," the voice said. "But it must never be ruled, only remembered. The power to connect worlds lies within the choice of unity, not control." The commander understood. This wasn't a weapon. It wasn't even just technology. It was a legacy, something that existed to remind every civilization that strength wasn't in domination, but in connection. The Supercarrier wasn't a warship. It was a bridge meant to bring distant worlds together. The realization filled everyone with quiet pride. Humanity had been underestimated for so long, by others and even by themselves. But now they had proved that their curiosity and determination had awakened something beyond imagination. As the ship slowly turned back toward the direction of Earth, the massive structure began to fade behind them, its lights dimming until it became one with the stars. The bridge appeared again, glowing softly, waiting to guide them home. When they returned to Earth, the ocean greeted them with calm waves and silver moonlight. The ship descended quietly into the water, returning to its place as if nothing had ever happened. From above, the world looked peaceful, unaware of what had just occurred. But the crew knew. The universe had changed. News of strange lights in the sky began to spread across the planet. Fishermen spoke of glowing waves. Travelers saw stars aligning in unusual patterns, and astronomers detected faint signals that didn't belong to any known satellite. The world didn't know it yet, but something new had begun. The commander stood alone once again, looking at the stars from the deck. The same quiet feeling returned, that soft hum, that unseen rhythm connecting him to something far away. He realized the message wasn't just for the Federation, or the ancient builders, or even for the ship. It was for all of humanity. The voice echoed one last time in his mind. When you look up, remember, the bridge is never closed. It only waits for those who dare to see it. He smiled faintly. The world might not be ready to know everything yet, but one day it would be. And when that day came, Earth wouldn't be just another planet. It would be the heart of something vast and united, a place where stars and people shared the same story. Far beyond the galaxy, in the silent halls of the Federation, the elites continued to watch. They had witnessed everything, the awakening, the light, the bridge. But now their arrogance was gone. They no longer looked at Earth as a small, primitive world. They looked at it with quiet respect and a hint of awe. One of them finally spoke, breaking the silence. "Perhaps," he said softly, "we are the ones who have been sleeping all along." And somewhere deep in the vastness of the ocean, the Supercarrier rested peacefully. Its systems dimmed, its mission complete for now. But if one listened closely, there was still that faint hum, the sound of connection, of power, of destiny, waiting patiently beneath the waves. Because the bridge between Earth and the stars had been opened, and it would never truly close again.